Hello, everybody. My name is Angel. I'm here today with Steven and Ingrid, the H team, as we like to call ourselves, the Hunts and the Hernandez family. And this little segment we're going to call Friends with Benefits, and we're going to cover how us as friends have a lot of shared benefits through JV deals that we do together. So we're going to walk through some JV deals that we're currently working on and as to why we choose to partner together over and over again and the benefits we bring individually to this team. So, hi guys.
Hey.
So fun to be doing this with y'all.
Mm-hmm.
So let's kind of talk through how we met and how we ended up doing our JV deal and kind of why we even partnered in the first place, right?
Yeah.
So I think the first deal the four of us ever did together was a flip in Florence about
Florence,
a year
Arizona.
ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Stephen, why don't you talk about, we sourced the deal. How did we find the deal, and why did we bring Ingrid and Mark in on that deal?
Absolutely. So that deal was sourced through a senior living community, and it was a situation where the seller was stuck in a hospital, didn't have any money, didn't know how to get out of the hospital, didn't have any family members to get them out of the hospital, so there was no money anywhere, but they had this paid off house. So we found a solution for them that we were able to get them out of the hospital that exact day that the deal was brought to us. We purchased the house and closed on it 2 weeks later. The reason why we decided to partner up with the Hernandez family on this one is because we needed to find capital. Nobody was willing to fund what was a mobile home out in Florence, Arizona. And it was also one of our first flips that we were ever going to be accomplishing. And we knew that the Hernandez family had actually already done some flips. So we knew there would be a great cohesive sense of team in getting this deal done, that we could learn a lot from the Hernandez family with us being able to provide that deal.
Very cool.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the fact that we actually met each other in Sub 2.
We sure did.
So I would never have known the Hunts. The Hunts would have never known the Hernandezes. Not with us right now. He's at Starbucks. Is Mark Hernandez and my husband. But I had the opportunity to get to know you guys first in Sub 2, going to the same meetups, being in the same Zooms, figuring each other out, like we have the same values. And so it was a very much an instant connection. My husband does say me and Steven are very much alike.
Very similar people.
Yeah. Like he'll call me about something and I was already going to address it before he had the opportunity to tell me, because we were just like on the same wavelength. It's crazy. But anyway, that was our first deal, and it was a manufactured home. So if you guys have manufactured homes out there, like we love them. We love them so long as they are on their own properties. Yeah.
Yes, that was still one of my favorite flips.
Yeah.
We did. You know what? It was supposed to be a triple-digit flip.
Yes.
It was around the time where the market had shifted, and it took a little bit longer than we anticipated. We were still building up a team of contractors, working with brand new people, didn't necessarily know or have the experience on how to manage people, manage timelines, manage money, motivate contractors, kind of set deadlines. And, one of the biggest lessons I think we learned in that deal is knowing when to actually let somebody go. We didn't know how to do that at the time and how to hold people accountable. So we lost some money just due to not letting people go, trying to finish out the project that was already kind of going wrong, and we just kind of stuck to it. It was still a profitable deal.
I'd say we lost potential, right?
We left some money on
Yeah.
the table, so it was a very profitable deal. We netted over $70,000 total on that deal, just with it was supposed to be a triple-digit flip. It was supposed to be a $100,000 spread, and because of the delays and some of the things that we ran into, that's what held us back from that, plus the market shift.
But I will say, like, what did that teach us? It taught us that we had adversity, and we all rolled up our sleeves and were like, okay, let's get this done. And so I leveraged my resources, because I've been an agent here in the state of Arizona for so long that I was able to do that. And we really just got to it. So we made sure we could get this done. I had family members going out there, like clearing out the yard, whatever we needed to do to make sure we get the property listed as soon as possible. My husband, who takes care of our listings when we flip, like he made sure he was also working the off-market approach. And so I think that really put us in a good spot despite what essentially became a 2-month delay. This was
Yeah.
only supposed to be a month's worth of flips, or a flip time.
Yeah,
And so,
very
yeah.
cosmetic.
Yeah, very cosmetic.
It was due to the location, which was something we also didn't account for too, was getting the contractors out to somewhere that's an hour outside of the city. And that's where some of our delays came from. However, it was also on the contractor for not explaining that to us, that could cause delays and issues.
But again, that really helped me identify, at least from my perspective, like, how do you operate under stress? How do I operate under stress? Do we like each other when we're stressed out? You know, like, could we work through what that looks like? And I think because we share so many similar values, like, it's not about the money, right? It's like about the process, about accomplishing something, like feeling good that you could check boxes off and say, wow, we did that. I think that is more meaningful. And then the money comes, like, that's an afterthought.
It's a consequence of having all of those line up, right? Getting the process down. The consequence of that is that you're going to make more money, that you're going to become more dialed in. And we had the opportunity to do so many other flips with other individuals outside of our JV that we did. And it really honed in. We were like, wow, we really, really, really enjoyed working with the Hernandezes when we did that Florence flip.
That's right.
We all stayed in our own lane, but we also all contributed where we knew we could. We knew that if Mark had great landscapers out there, or if he had great pest control or a great septic person, he was taking that on and he was fully managing that side of it. And then on the construction side, for some of the finishes and the detail work there, I was saying, hey, let me get all those picked out. And we all stuck in our lanes, so nobody felt stressed out like somebody was taking on all of the work. It was really a collaborative team effort that led to us having that profitable deal.
Yeah. So then afterwards, we're like, we just need to do more deals together.
Yes.
And then shortly there, we sold you guys a property in Arbor, in Mesa, Arizona.
Which you guys are now selling right now, and it's under contract.
It's under contract,
So let's talk about that one.
Yeah.
You got that deal under contract, and you actually wholesold it to us.
Yeah.
And we were planning on actually just fixing and flipping it and keeping it as a rental, which we did for an entire year.
Yeah.
We decided to, sober living became so hot in Arizona and everyone was doing it. We kind of had a little bit of FOMO. What is this exit strategy? Let's get familiar with it. We're like, this is a perfect house to do it. Let's give it a go.
Yeah.
It did not work out for us. Painful lesson learned that if you're going to have a lot of people living in one house on a septic tank, you're going to have
Lots
a real
of septic
shitty
cleanouts.
situation.
Yes.
So
Exactly.
at the end of the day, it did not, with how the market had changed so drastically and so quickly. Initially, we were hoping it would be a long-term hold for us, but with interest being high and with rehab, it was a very extensive gut. All brand new electric, all brand new plumbing. Was that a new roof?
Everything was new.
Brand new roof.
Not a single thing was missed in this house.
It was completely,
all had to be
basically,
brand new.
consider it a new build at this point. We took it down to the studs. So construction was lengthy, even though we had a insanely fast team on that project. Regardless of how quick they accomplished it, the interest rates beat us and they were faster. The hikes were just insane. And at the time of refi, we just couldn't cash flow as a long-term rental. It was a really bad time to sell too, so we couldn't really offload the property. And so we're like, you know what? Let's try an exit strategy that we never have before. It was a great learning experience, and I think a lot of people are still doing it who are working with really successful operators in the valley. It's a great exit strategy, but we just know better now. We would prefer larger houses, not on septic, if we're gonna do something like that. And
Totally.
We held it for a year. It was great. We were able to pay down the house a little bit. We actually depreciated it the first year we had it, so it helped our tax situation, and it was really beneficial in that way. And now it's been 1 year, and we held it for a year and a day, and to avoid those short-term capital gains tax, right?
Yep, and get the depreciation.
Cleaned up the house, got the renters out, and we handed it back over to the Hernandez family to now sell it on the market.
Which has been fantastic. Yeah. One of the beauties of this, though, too, I will say in this past year is that we've individually, separately, the Hernandezes and the Hunts, right, have all grown so much in our resources, our knowledge base, the experience of everything that we've done. So going back and looking back at that Florence deal, it was an awesome deal to do together. But looking at what we have going on right now and the things that we get to work on together now, it's almost a completely different experience because you have grown and really just flourished so much in this acquisition side of things, where so many deals come to you. I mean, there's not a day that goes by that you don't send me an opportunity.
Yeah.
Where you're like, hey, check this one out. Should we do this one? Should we do this one? Should we do this one? Sometimes it's 3, 4, 5 a day. So you've really flourished so much in that side of it. And because I did so many rehabs and everything last year, the team that I've built around that, it's made it so you don't have to really be involved in any of the rehab. You can just focus on staying in your lane of flourishing, on bringing great deals to the table. And we both work hand in hand when it comes to finding private money. I know we're doing 2 right now. You brought private money for one. The second one I brought private money for, which is so cool that we got to grow in this direction together, and we can take on these really awesome opportunities because we know we can rely on each other.
Right. And one of the things that our mentor Pace talks about is that this is so much more fun when you're doing it with people you really like.
Absolutely.
Because I mean, I grew up playing sports, and so the most fun I've ever had was when there was a cohesive team and you're high-fiving, and like every time you hit a milestone, you're excited and you're like sharing in that energy. And I feel like I get to do that with you guys. And so, I just got a little goosebumps. You know, like it's for real though. It's for real. Like when you get to have fun like that. And we have the same sort of approach. Like, why do I get deals? Because people know me as a buyer and somebody who will help you close on those properties that maybe you're not really clear what the right way of closing them should be. And I can speak to sellers and agents, so it's easy for me to have those conversations and literally just be myself and help close those deals. So for me, it's been fun to be able to have these experiences with you because we get to share in that same energy and have fun. But then to your point, like, I'm not the designer. I mean, this guy is he's got such a great vision and I'm a great editor. Like, show me your vision. I'll just be like, do a little tweak here, little tweak. But I can't start with that canvas. Like, that's actually overwhelming for me when I think about the canvas of like, I'm more of a skeleton. Like when we walked, so we're doing a property now in Flagstaff. When we walked in, I'm like, I can see it come together.
Yes.
But the detail with the things that are going to, attract a buyer to it, I can't start with it. Somebody else starts with it, and then I just improve upon it. Does that make sense? I'm an editor.
Yes.
I'm not a creator.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love creating from scratch.
Yeah.
That's always been one of my favorite things. I start to get held up more towards the editing stage,
Yeah,
actually.
so that's why it's great complimentary. Yes. Like, that's really true.
Steven stays up late at night, like 3 a.m. every night, looking at luxury flips and materials and sourcing and different oak stains and all the things that I'm just like, I don't know, but I'm so glad somebody on the team loves this and so passionate about it, because there's only one person on our team that can literally look at different stains of wood and get excited.
Well, to me, it's all about the attention to detail, especially when you're selling at a higher price point too. And when you're doing a lot of these flips, I want to make sure that people love what they come into. I want people to have that emotional pull when they walk into a house and they go, oh my gosh, this is the one, right? This is so beautiful. So trying to get everybody on the same page of that too can be difficult. So making sure that I understand all the stains, all the materials that we're using, building a 3D model so that way the contractors and everybody that's working on the house can understand what we're doing versus me explaining it or drawing it on a napkin really helps hone that into.
Totally.
So talk to that a little bit, Steven, because before we used to have such a detailed approach to every property, and we actually struggled with picking up more volume because you were treating each house with such specific finishes and specific color schemes. Talk to the audience if somebody is looking to scale their fix and flip business and make that rehab process a little bit more just kind of repeatable for the contractors, because that's where we found a lot of mistakes were getting made, is that no matter how detailed we would explain things, write things out, repeat ourselves 1,000 times a day, we would still show up and the color of the walls wasn't what we had intended, or the cabinets in the kitchen weren't built out exactly how we want it to be. So talk about the softwares and resources you use and how you were able to systemize, so to speak, like we have playbooks now. So
yeah, absolutely.
Talk a lot about that.
So, and it took a little bit of learning on my end to understand how can I make this as simple as possible for everybody else. I know how I want this to look, but also understanding that, okay, if it's a different house every time, I'm going to have to be overly involved every single time. So we changed that. We didn't want it to be a boring house, but we took some of our favorite flips and we decided to create flip playbooks depending on the style of house that it was. We have 3 or 4 of them that we actually use right now. So depending on the style of house that it is, we now can give that
price
flip
point, right?
Yes, and price point. we can give that flip playbook now to a project manager who manages the majority of the project. They're making sure that the contractors stay on time, that are making sure that the contractors stay on task. They're making sure that the finishes are ordered on the specific time frame that they need. So it's all listed out. And on our flip playbooks, I have photos of exactly what it should look like. I have the colors linked with a SKU number, with a link to the brand that we're using. Same thing with all the finishes when it comes to the hardware. Everything is completely listed out. So now I can say, hey, we're going to follow playbook number 3 this time for this house. You know exactly what this looks like. You remember, because we just did it on the house before and the house before. So we're going to follow this exact playbook, and you're going to make sure that this is done within a 4-week time frame.
Yeah, that's cool, because that's really what will make or break, I think, people in this business long term.
Yes.
Because the long term, you can't. It is fun to do some of those projects though, that you can like
passion projects,
yeah, passion projects. You know? Yeah. Do you consider the Flagstaff one a passion project?
I consider Flagstaff to be a passion project.
Let's talk a little bit about Flagstaff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
So I had a wholesaler reach out to me and say, hey, would you like this deal? And when I looked at the numbers, I was like, Am I crazy? Because this is a big get. I was like, why is it so cheap in an area like Flagstaff that is it's booming, it's growing, it has really great appreciation dollars, and I wasn't understanding why it was so cheap. And then I don't even know if it was at night, because I tend to text Steven at like 10 p.m. because I know he'll still be awake. Late. Yeah,
we're night owls.
Yeah, and
we're not early risers.
And so I was like, hey, is this a deal, or am I kidding myself? And then I found out why it hadn't sold. So the seller who lived there was attracting a lot of the bad kind of folks from the neighborhood. And so because it was unattractive, I also think that Flagstaff, if you don't have the resources, so like GCs and people who you can count on, people just tend to shy away from it because they don't have those systems in place to be able to do that kind of flip. So we are more or less experimenting right now. We're with the one flip. We have an amazing contractor so far that they've shown us.
Yes.
And so, but once we ran the numbers, do you want to go through the numbers a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you sent this to me and you're like, hey, am I missing something here? And I'm like, well, let me take a look at it too. And I think I called you immediately and said, hey, am I missing something here? Because this, I think I'm seeing what you're seeing here. Yeah. I'm like, why do these numbers seem so off?
Yeah.
Well, so the purchase price of this property was $290,000. Now in Flagstaff, Arizona, that is very cheap. Flagstaff is not an inexpensive place to live. It is not considered affordable in any way. It is a vacation home. Most people actually have second homes in Flagstaff that are wealthy down in the valley. And they go up there so that they can get some time off and have a little vacation spot that they can go to. It's only 2.5 hours away. So it was a $290,000 purchase price. On the county assessor, it had shown that it was a 1,400 square foot home. But the wholesaler was saying, hey, actually, I think it's 1,700 square feet because there's a casita in the back. And we go, okay, well, if that's the case, then this sounds like it should be a home run based on the price per square foot here. So we go up, we say, hey, yes, we'll take the house. We go up, we walk it. And after measuring everything out, realizing, wait a minute, the main house itself is actually 2,000 square feet, and that doesn't include the casita in the back. So now it turned the entire project into, okay, our ARV now is going to be $650,000.
Which was the difference as to, what was it before you realized how big the square footage was?
500,000, 500 to 550.
Yeah.
It was right around that range.
So just by walking the property and literally measuring it out live, you were able to see, holy moly, $150,000 more.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it's crazy.
And by the way, when we walked it for the first time, we went together. It was me, Steven.
You led that charge. I was so shocked.
Mark and our friend Marco from Florida. And I couldn't go into the main room. It smelled so awful. It was bad. Slightly a hoarder's house to some degree, at least in that master bedroom. There's just a lot. It's why people shy away from these types of opportunities too. And I love that Brent Daniel says the bigger or the uglier the house, the bigger the checks. And I feel like that was this house.
And a lot of people don't want to take on the ugliest houses. And just like the Arbor one we talked about, that was a heavy remodel. Not a lot of people would want to take that on.
No.
But we're talking about something that when we bought it had an appraisal value of $400,000, and we bought it for $150,000 from you. I mean, that was, talk about a huge spread there, but it was going to require $100,000 to $150,000 worth of work, a big project. And that's similar to what we're looking at here with Flagstaff. It's going to be a $150,000 rehab, which is not a small rehab. We're talking about putting beams in, we're adding plumbing, we're adding a bunch of different things to this property. but because the value's there, because we're at this higher price point, we want to make sure that it shows and provides that too.
Yeah, it's interesting that your last name is Hunt because I like to hunt deals.
This is true.
What does Hernandez stand for? I don't know. Yeah, but so that's how we do stay in our lane. So like I continue to, and then we were thinking about actually keeping Flagstaff, right? So just so that we're on the same page, we think alike. We think more like buyers. Like, how do we buy and hold it?
That's our first option,
right? And so we do have more than one exit in the Flagstaff property.
Yes.
So if shit hits the fan and we have to think about a second strategy, it's actually going to be a really great dual income sort of property where you can do a long-term rental in the front or short-term rental, and then short-term rental in the back with that ADU. So, yeah.
And I think the ADU would be an easy short-term in the back because it's something that would be inexpensive. I think it would be always filled for people that want to go up to Flagstaff, which is awesome. It's a great vacation destination in Arizona to get away from the heat.
Yeah. And then now we have another deal that we just closed on.
Literally closed on.
What's recording? He's going to recording on Monday. Yeah, on Monday. That's
on
right.
a holiday weekend. Don't know how.
Yeah,
but,
Yeah.
Nobody caught that, but it is what it is.
Yeah, but so when we officially are the owners on Monday, this property, because I am a licensed agent in Arizona, I got this lead because somebody was also being placed into an assisted living, and I was like, wait. What are your needs? They're like, we want this to be fast. We want this to be easy. We don't want to have to deal with all the showings, the furniture, the blah, blah, blah. So when I go and speak to potential clients, especially on the agent side, I first say, look, I'm going to talk to you because I am an investor. I'm going to talk to you as an investor. If what I'm saying doesn't align with your needs, then I'll put my fiduciary agent hat. And so in this one, when I told them what I could bring to the table as an investor, quick, fast cash, don't worry about anything that's left in the house. We will clear it for you. It took a lot of stress off the daughter's shoulders. And she's like, I want that. Even though I also told her what she could walk away with if we did it more traditionally. And she just didn't want that. She didn't want the showings, the long timeline. She was willing to leave money on the table if we could do it quick and fast.
Yes.
So some folks don't understand that, especially if you've only ever had an agent background. You're always like, no, people always just want more money. And I'm like, that's just not true.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, and so you brought that to me then, and you go, hey, so she wants to move forward. She wants to do it fast. She's happy to sell to an investor. What prices? Because I think you were in Seattle at the time too. You were on a family vacation, something along those lines, or something was going on. You're like, hey, what are these numbers? What would you feel comfortable with?
Yeah.
And I sent them over to you. You sent them to her immediately, and she's like, hey, I'll take the cash offer.
Yeah.
That one works.
Totally.
And I was like, let me write up the contract.
Actually, we gave her several options, right? We sent an
3
email, said, here's what it would look like with cash, which was the least amount of money.
Yes.
Here's what it would look like if we did creative terms. We have 2 different. It was like the hunt. There's a hunt method in there. I can't. I think it's
Ingryd
like patented, so I can't even talk about how that one was so unique. But it does mean we could have given her even more money than a traditional seller finance, because this property was mostly free and clear. The only thing that was leaned up against it was the solar, and then the last was if they listed it. And that one actually would have netted them the most. So it wasn't. Not netted.
Netted them the most would have been, would have been the seller finance, but over time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
they could have made more had we listed it on the market, but the pool repair alone is going to be $10,000 minimum. So I know that they didn't want to put the effort into getting that fixed up and fixing up some of the other minor things in the property.
Do you remember that? So we always, just an FYI, always send out 3 options to all of our leads. 1 cash offer, 1 creative, and 3rd, Stephen and I are actually not licensed. Everything that requires a realtor, we just throw over to Ingrid and Mark. But that's always an option that we have as well, that if neither of these options work for you, then and you want to go traditionally and list with a realtor, that's who our go-to is. Do you remember off the top of your head what that second option looked like? As Ingrid likes to call it, the hunt method. Would you like to explain that at all?
Yeah, so it's structured similarly to a regular seller finance deal. So on a regular 0% interest seller finance deal, you have a payment that you'd be making to the seller. It's typically a lower payment because it's 0% interest. So what the hunt method, if you will, would be here is that we are actually telling the seller that we'd be happy to make higher payments to them, because in a lot of cases, I think the payment on this one would have worked out to around $800 a month at 0% interest seller finance. And we were saying, hey, we can make a $2,000 a month payment to you, which is a significant increase and helps out a lot of people in those situations. However, if we make $2,000 a month payments to you, we can't pay you from the property. We'd have to pay you from our company. So we would be securing this by our company, not by the property. And that way we create a note that's not secured by the deed of trust. We now create a note that is secured by our LLC. So our LLC is responsible for paying down that debt. What that does is it makes our property look free and clear, which is awesome, because now we can go either get a line of credit, we can do a cash out refinance on it on up to 70% loan to value there, and we can pull out a bunch of tax-free money, and now we have that money that we can use for other deals if we need to. What I prefer to do with that situation, because we're still responsible on making payments to the seller with that other note, is we go pay off another asset that we have. And that way that asset is free and clear, cash flowing a ton of money, which is great, and that will make the payment to the seller. And that's at 0% interest seller finance. So $2,000 a month is paying that down rapidly. I mean, it'll take 10 years to get that whole thing paid down. And that's what the hunt method would be in that situation, is rapidly paying it down. The benefit there too is because we're cash flowing on this free and clear asset that we paid off, we can now take a line of credit out on that and use it on a per need basis. So typically 50 to 60% loan to value, you can go on that with a line of credit. You don't pay interest unless you're using that money. I can use that money now and go buy 3 or 4 additional assets that do cash flow.
And at the end of the day, what matters is, not matters. Okay, so let's break this down for a second. If you come into this type of opportunity, ideally, it has to be a free and clear property, right? Or something very close to being free and clear.
Yes, absolutely.
That way, like a new note with a first lien HELOC, right? We just learned about that. We're very, very excited about that. Or a traditional DSCR loan or something like that. So then you can, really, this is like a snowball effect.
It can set you up for success wildly. We recently just did one in Casa Grande, and it was awesome. It's actually funding 6 other projects right now, which has been fantastic.
One house.
Yeah, from one house.
One house where we moved the note that was secured by the asset. Now it's secured by our LLC. We make the monthly payments always early. The seller's happy because her payments increased. And we were able to leverage that free and clear property and pull all that money out that we're funding 6 other fix and flips. Actually, 3 of them we're keeping. So 3 of them are going to turn into rentals, and the other 3 are going to be fix and flips.
So how is it? Does it become public record, or how does that work when you have a debt against an LLC or a company?
It's something that they can hold us to. It's not necessarily recorded against the house title. In that sense, but we still have it through a servicing company. So Westar actually still does it. So Westar is the one that we make the payments to. Nothing changed other than the fact that the seller is getting a higher payment, and now it's not a note secured by the deed of trust.
So you still have like a third party involved, so that agreement is still written, they still feel good about it, and a third party is involved on verifying whether or not you're paying them. Because I think that's the scary part.
Yeah, I think the closest comparison we can make is when you personally guarantee loans. So our company is basically personally guaranteeing this loan, and if we were to default on this loan, they can come after our LLC. So that's important to us, to always keep up to date and service those loans and never be late, because we don't want to put the LLC in that position, in that situation. We wouldn't want to be sued. And plus, just the honesty, integrity of building rapport with a seller and doing business the right way, being honest and transparent on how these situations work. Just building up that rapport. We've been paying the seller on seller finance for over a year. So we've always been early. We've always made the full payment. We've never given her any reason to worry. And when she came to us a year down the road saying, my mom is in a horrible health situation, unfortunately, is there, these payments are not covering our needs anymore. Is there any possible way to increase these payments? We thought of this as a solution, because the property only cash flows so much. We couldn't necessarily increase the payments unless we were just going to come out of pocket. But Steven just thought of this. We've actually never heard of it.
Was this like a 3 a.m. like idea? Like what in the world?
Kind of, yeah. I was twisting this in every way I possibly could because I'm like, well, the market has shifted. I gave her close to what the market value was at the time on a seller finance deal. It was ready to go. We slapped a tenant in there right away at $1,750 a month, maybe $1,800 a month, somewhere around there. They actually just renewed for another year, which is fantastic. So we slapped a tenant in there right away. And so when she came back, she's like, is there anything we can do? I'm like, well, I can't sell it. We have tenants in place. The market has shifted. I will take a loss on this. This makes no sense for me to do this.
But for the record, you didn't have to do anything because you already had an agreement. This is the adult decision with the adult consequence.
Yes.
But this is why I do business with the Hunts, by the way, because they still want to be of service.
Yes. And I told her that. I said, I don't know if there's much that we can do in this situation. And we were even considering at that point, do we just increase? She needed about $400 to $500 a month more. I'm like, do we even do this and just, eat it for the time being? Because at least it's paying the principal down every single month. And that's
it was
nice.
a 0% interest deal. So even if we would have increased the payments, we're just paying down the principal faster. However, we did not want to come out of pocket. So
Absolutely.
That's what pushed Steven's creativity of how do we structure this to where something's paying this higher payment.
Yeah.
And she's still backed by something where she feels secure, but we're not necessarily just straight up writing her an additional $500 check out of pocket.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's where I was kind of twisting this was how could I do that? I'm like, man, if I had some of these houses free and clear, it wouldn't even be a second thought for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I would totally just do this. And I was like, well, could I pay off another house with this house? I'm like, could I refinance her out? No, I can't refinance her out. What could I do here? And that's when it hit me. I'm like, well, what if I don't show that there's any debt on the house? What if I could just move the note off of the house? Would that work? So I had the idea, and then within 30 seconds, I immediately started calling title companies. I called 2 or 3 title companies that I respect and trust and what those escrow officers have to say. I then called a few different banks that I know where I know the lenders individually and said, hey, if this was this way, would there be any issues? And everybody lined up with exactly the way I was thinking, that there would be no issues, that it would appear to be free and clear, and that you could totally do that.
That's dope.
So then I was like, I'm just going to try this. I don't know if I've ever heard of anybody doing this. I'm just going to give it a shot. Let's go for it.
Have you talked to Pace about this?
I have not talked to Pace about this, no.
That would be a good one for the podcast, you know what I'm saying?
He's got a lot of seller finance deals that he could pull a lot of money out of.
But I think that's what kind of was our entry into learning about what it truly means to be bankable and how to access those lines of credit that people talk about when they access $500,000, $700,000, $1 million of lines of credit. How is that actually done? So that kind of actually pushed us into that world and catapulted a whole another level of knowledge. So it's been really exciting to learn about.
Super fun.
So let's close the loop on our Mesa. So we got our Flagstaff, which we bought for $290, and it has the potential of being sold for around $650, which is amazing. What's our gross on that? Our gross profit potential?
Our gross spread is about $220,000 on that one.
Yeah. Yeah, a double and
triple-digit flip.
A 2.2 multiple of a triple-digit flip. And then for the Mesa property, we bought it at
$315. Our ARV on that one is $465, $470, right around there. We're looking to have a gross spread of about $100,000 on that one too.
Yeah.
It should be $40,000 for the work done. It should be 4 weeks in and out, easy.
Yeah. Right on. So those are my favorite.
excited.
You got those kinds of deals, I'm buying. We're buying.
Bring it to us.
All right. So that is why this is Friends with Benefits.
Love that. Well, thank you guys all so much, and
Tune in next time.